Today's episode of the Sceptical Lefties is brought to you by the Department of Work and Pensions, systematically reducing the welfare bill one death at a time. Hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
And we're back with another block rocking beat. Yeah.
What are we up to, episode 12 now?
12 indeed, yes.
Oh.
And the news never gets any better.
I know.
It would be nice to actually come at you with some good news, but
there isn't any good news.
no,
so,
because 2020 is fucked. We're all fucked, and certainly the Labour Party's fucked.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would like to start off by having a laugh and making some jokes about it, but there isn't. You know, if you can think of any jokes about the fucking Labour Party at the moment.
Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah, well, he's well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the awesome election-winning prawn whisperer who can't even get ahead of the Tories in the middle of a pandemic.
That they are failing with dramatically.
Yeah. He was this idea that the Labour Party is leading is catching up with the Tories in the polls is very, very misleading.
It is.
If you look at the specific polls that are actually on personal things, so it's questions like the questions where Starmer does well are always trivial things like who do you think looks more prime ministerial, who do you like more, you know, the actual, you know, and Starmer comes up pretty well against Johnson, but you know, if you actually compare the parties, the Labour Party is about 4 or 5 points behind the Tory Party.
Yeah.
In the middle of a pandemic.
Exactly.
Which they're handling disastrously.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that those numbers are significantly less than Corbyn was polling.
Yeah.
Pretty much throughout the entirety.
Well, after... I'm not sure through the entirety. He did poll pretty badly at some points, but
I'll quantify that. He was still behind the Tories. However, the actual level, the level was higher.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, after the 2017 election and after the Glastonbury moment, there was one period where Jeremy was about 6 points ahead of the Tories.
It was flying high. Yeah.
And that's better than Keir Starmer's ever done.
Could you imagine Keir Starmer at Glastonbury?
No.
I
honestly can't.
It would be like Abe Simpson when they had that flashback to Woodstock, and he's there sat on a deck chair saying, shouting at Jimi Hendrix, "Boo! Bring on Sha-na-na!"
Yeah, it would be basically exactly like that.
Yeah.
But what he would do is he would fuck it up. Because the one thing that is absolutely, you can guarantee about Starmer is that every time he's gifted with an opportunity to win a new generation of Labour voters, he just fucks it up every single time.
Absolutely.
Like the A-level algorithm business.
Yeah.
He had a perfect opportunity to get an entire generation of Labour Party voters on board in time for the next election. Because if you're 17 in 2020, you're going to be 21 by the time the next election rolls around.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least 1 million voters.
I can understand why so many people are so disaffected for the prospect of voting again.
Yeah.
Because obviously, those of us that don't and would never vote Tory are still not going to vote Tory. But at the same time, can we really say that we're going to vote Labour?
Well,
I can't.
Well, this is the problem. I mean, it's like the old Peter Mandelson thing of that. So Alistair Campbell and Peter Mandelson had this phrase which they used to say in the Blair years, about 1997, when they were asked about the northern working class sort of old school Labour vote. He said, well, they've got nowhere else to go. Well, in the last 20 years, they have found somewhere else to go. And, you know, they've gone via UKIP, which is the entry, the gateway drug, into the Tory party.
Yeah.
So, well, at least for a short period of time.
Yes, I think. Well, it depends how you look at it, really, because some people, a lot of disaffected Tories went to UKIP and, by extension, the Brexit party.
I see what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, you know, that kind of institutional loyalty doesn't exist anymore.
No.
And what happens? People will just stay home. And the reason I bring this up is it's become clear now how utterly disastrous the Starmer strategy is. outside of the Westminster bubble, it's not going very well at all.
No.
And that was brought into stunning relief by Starmer's decision to come out in favour of a circuit breaker lockdown. Now, I don't know what your theory about what your view of another lockdown is, whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I'll say this: it's absolutely crazy to be in favour of another national lockdown without putting the necessary support in place for people's jobs, and that would mean not only a radical extension of the furlough scheme, but it would also mean
a radical indefinite extension of the furlough.
It would also mean going even further than that, to the more outre sort of things like basic income, shorter working week, greater levels of a kind of a mass movement towards home working and making that permanent. At least amongst the sectors of the workforce for whom it's possible to be permanent. You know?
I wish we could. I wish we could.
You know, another great idea which I've heard about, which would be a brilliant policy for the Labour Party to adopt, along with a second lockdown policy, would be a COVID wealth tax. You know, get the top billionaires to pay for all the fucking, you know, furlough scheme and all that.
Well, you know, we've been wanting the top billionaires to pay their fucking whack for a long time. You know, I'm sorry, but if you can't get it in normal circumstances, you're not going to get it in a national emergency either. Because where's the fucking incentive, really? Because they're, you know, people like, obviously it doesn't really apply in this country so much, but the Jeff Bezoses of this world are just going to sit back and laugh at you.
Well, I'd fucking... there must be someone to tax. There must be someone you could tax.
Alan Sugar.
I'd tax him.
I'd tax him. I would introduce an oxygen tax specifically for him, seeing as he's wasting so much of it just by existing. He is. He is an absolute little troll of a man.
I think... No, but my larger point is, Starmer has already poo-pooed the idea of a universal basic income anyway. He's not said he's in favour of an indefinite extension to the furlough scheme. He's in favour of something replacing it, and he's, you know, the problem with that is you take with one hand and you give with the other. So what happens is you're in favour of radical state intervention, which would have without the necessary support, would have an adverse knock-on effect on people's businesses and people's livelihoods, because people would lose their jobs if their businesses went bust. But you're not offering the support there. So what the Tory party are going to do at the next election? This is how the Tory party will campaign at the next election. I predict this. They will say something like, "Let's just imagine we're in the same place the next time the next election rolls around," which I know is unlikely, touch wood at the moment, but it will probably be something like this. If we're still having the similar debates, there'll be something like this. They'll say, Keir Starmer doesn't care about your job. He's going to lock down the economy. He's going to make your business go bust. He's going to make you lose your job. On the other hand, Boris Johnson's the captain who sailed the ship through rocky waters. He made it possible.
Ran us aground many times.
He made it possible. Over that. He protected the economy when it was really dangerous. He maintained X levels of growth in the economy. He should have bounced back. You know, it's all bollocks.
Of course.
It's all bullshit.
Like all political campaigning, it's all bollocks.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But what is Starmer's response going to be?
Well, usually Starmer's response, I mean, it's actually interesting that he is in favour of this so-called circuit breaker lockdown, given the fact that it actually constitutes an original idea. Because so far, Starmer's only response has been, "Oh, I support you, Boris, so you're so good, Boris. I'll support, the party will support you on everything."
But the thing is, I'll come back to that point in a minute.
Please do.
But what is the counter argument going to be to that? Because there's going to be, there isn't one. You know?
I'm reminded of the situation that we had in 2015 Ed Miliband.
Yeah, it's going to be Ed Miliband all over.
It is Ed Miliband, and I called it as soon as as soon as Starmer was elected leader. We're now in a situation where we're going to have fucking, under Ed Miliband we had the idea of austerity versus austerity light, and now we've got Corona versus Corona light.
Yeah.
That's exactly, and it really is. The whole thing has descended into. I saw someone on Facebook the other day describe it as carry on COVID, and I think that's absolutely fucking spot on of an analogy, really.
And the strategy, because I was thinking to myself about what you said, because Starmer's strategy up until now seems to have absolutely no policies whatsoever.
No.
And I mean that is annoying in itself.
Because apparently he was supposed to be credible opposition.
Yeah.
What's he actually opposed so far? Well, he's opposed opposing the fucking this undercover bill, whatever the fuck you want to call. What is it actually called?
It's the Overseas Operations Bill.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes,
it's
basically shorthand for.
There's two pieces of legislation, and they're very, very closely associated with each other. So this piece of legislation actually comes in two bits. There's the Overseas Operations Bill, and the other one has a very complicated name. I'll come back to it in a minute. But they are both basically allow British security agents to basically
it's carte blanche to commit crimes.
And it's important to say. This obviously has been construed by the right-wing media to be very anti-military piece of legislation, but it's worth saying that this is not simply just legislation which is about military operations. I mean, close protection agents would
fall into it as well. Yes,
and of course,
I actually really wanted to get into close protection, just so I could carry a gun.
Yeah.
I really wanted.
Close protection agents are notorious for having extramarital affairs.
Yeah.
Like you may find
there's that as well.
And they,
that's the job, mate.
Well, it's the perfect job for an extramarital affair. Close protection.
New bird in every port.
Well, hi, honey. I have to be away for a whole week, and I can't tell you where I'm going.
Yeah.
You can't contact me either, and I can't contact you. I can't tell you. It's all protected by government legislation, the Official Secrets Act. I can't tell you anything about it, but I'll be gone for a week or 2 weeks. It's perfect for an extramarital affair. In fact, do you want to know something incredible? I was listening to Salman Rushdie talk once. Now, Salman Rushdie has a long association with close protection officers.
Yeah, he needs to, doesn't he?
He lived with them for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he said this absolutely incredible thing about one close protection officer at Scotland Yard who was sacked from his job because he was essentially a bigamist. I mean, seriously, he had two families. He had his real family, and he had another family.
It's bad enough just having a bit on the side, but a whole family.
A whole family. He managed to keep another family totally secret from his first family. And he had kids with his second family.
Yeah.
And even to the extent where he named the kids of his second family, he gave them the same names as his kids in his first family.
Oh, that's just a piss take, that.
So he wouldn't
get the names wrong. Oh my god, that's terrible.
Yeah, so he wouldn't make the mistake of accidentally using the wrong name.
That's awful.
But he was.
Oh wow, I can't even get my head around that.
Yeah, but he was sacked.
Good.
From the yard for basically he was found out, I should say, because he's basically running into debt. Because he was only a relatively low level officer, he was a sort of detective sergeant, I think.
Well, keeping one wife happy is hard enough.
Yeah.
The cost of two, that's just crazy.
Yeah. But you would. Families are expensive enough. I mean, running two on a detective sergeant's wage, it's hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't long before he was found out. But either way, I mean, the thing is, if you do that, a close protection officer is potentially ruining someone's life.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what they are doing.
And This just shows you if a close protection officer such as that was protected in the proposed legislation that the Tories are putting forward, it would potentially make it impossible for a woman to get her fair share of, say, a property,
or just general, just to prosecute. Which she would be in that situation. She should be absolutely within her rights to do, and and obviously vice versa if the agent happened to be female. I'm told they're allowed to do such things these days. They'll be having the vote next. You watch. Crazy. Anyway, that is a joke, obviously.
But see, the thing is, the spy cops legislation.
That's essentially.
I mean, it's perfect example. It's a perfect example where Starmer's failing because he officially, I think he officially abstained on it.
Yeah,
he whipped his MPs to abstain on it.
Which, and I've for a long time now been very much of the opinion that MPs should not be allowed to abstain. If you cannot agree with something, then you must disagree with it.
Yeah. Well,
and and I think that should be a law. I don't think MPs should be allowed to abstain at all.
Well, you kind of but you can abstain on the vote, can't you? Our vote, the suffrage, yeah.
Yes, but then again, these people we elect to, to represent our, concerns and moralities, and if they're not even going to do that basic fucking job, then what good are they?
Well, that's a good point. But coming back to the instrumental aspect of Starmer's decision to whip his MPs to abstain on the bill, I cannot for the life of me see what strategic advantage he's gaining from it. Because look at it this way. I mean, it's a perfect example of how of the shortcomings of Starmer's approach. Is that his thesis is he only cares about one kind of voter, which is the Workington Man Red Wall voter. So everything he does seems like it's been focus grouped to appeal to that particular voter. So the thing is, but
this is a false.
But that voter will not come back to you for abstaining on this bill.
No, it won't.
So what you do is you piss off your own base. And you don't win any new support in the areas you want to. So you hemorrhage votes on both sides of your support.
There's been one or two reports that several people who were involved in the systematic dismantling of Jeremy Corbyn's reputation now absolutely regret having done that. Now that they've seen Starmer's true colours.
Who's that?
Which is literally a million shades of grey.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember specific names, but I did see quotes in media.
It'd be lovely if you could tell me who. I mean, I'm not suggesting you find them right now. If you
I can't anyway.
But I'd love to know who they were. Two people. So is that true? Two people who were instrumental in the undermining Jeremy Corbyn are now regretting supporting Starmer.
And the quote I saw was to the point where they were literally in tears about it.
I think I saw a similar quote.
Yes.
I think it was from two people who had been supportive of Corbyn and then switched over to supporting Starmer.
Could be.
Obviously because they drank the Kool-Aid about him being actually this campaigning socialist.
Well, you see, the thing is about drinking the Kool-Aid is that you actually die if you do that. If one takes the proper Jim Jones story to heart.
Yeah.
So, by all means, drink the Kool-Aid.
But, I mean, I've got very little sympathy for those two people because it was just plain and obvious to see. And apart from the fact that, this decision to whip the MPs to abstain on the Overseas Operation Bill, apart from the fact that you gain no tactical advantage from it whatsoever, what you do is the process is alienate your natural support. You look divided in front of the country. And what was the third thing I was going to say? I can't remember. It's like, oh God, what was I about to say?
Well, I'll come back to that. But it's interesting how, the Red Wall, a lot of people, you know, I mean, I don't really think there is such a thing necessarily as a red wall. What I see is disaffected communities that were absolutely hammered by the likes of Thatcher.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm coming in a minute.
Okay.
Like,
No, go for it.
I realised the utter hypocrisy of it, and you reminded me when you said disaffected communities. He has whipped his MPs to vote to abstain on this bill, you know, and he has done, you know, obviously 8 MPs have now resigned from the front bench because of this.
Good.
Not to forgetting the fact that this is the man who got up in front of Labour Party conference and said that Remain should be on the table in a second referendum, despite the fact that that was outside of the Labour Party policy on Brexit.
No, option to remain was part of what they actually came up with.
I think if you remember
when they sort of forced it at conference.
No, this was before that. So
so
if you remember this sequence, at this time we wanted Corbyn was moving towards a customs union.
Yeah.
And the idea was that the policy is that we'd try and get a customs union. If we couldn't get that, we'd have a general election and a Labour government to negotiate our deal.
Yeah.
And there was another school of thought around Starmer, supported by the incredibly well-financed People's Vote campaign, which was a brainchild of Peter Mandelson and Amber Rudd's brother, who's a business consultant.
Yeah.
You know, and they were pushing for no general election, a second referendum first. And then Starmer went on in front of the Labour conference and said, we are not leaving a second referendum with an option to remain off the table, which was outside of Labour Party policy. So he should have resigned. And in fact, one of my big positive criticisms of Jeremy, because I am critical of Jeremy Corbyn, but I'm a positive critic, if you like. He should have sacked Starmer, really, for that.
Yeah, he should have sacked Starmer. There's a lot of people he should have sacked, in my opinion. He should have been a lot more ruthless.
He should have done.
Jeremy's problem was that he tried to please everybody, which you cannot do.
Well,
we would have been better off just forging ahead with what we wanted and fuck everyone else. If you don't like it, you know where the door is.
Well, I think that
you cannot have two differing views, you know, especially if they're completely polar opposite views. Within the same party, you all have to be singing from the same song sheet. That's why I absolutely reject this idea of there being a right of the party. Of course, there is a right of the party, but I'm saying is there should not be.
Yeah,
there should not be.
I mean, this thing is, I mean, I totally agree with you, Fred. I mean, the trouble with Jeremy is he was in love. He is in love with the Labour Party.
Yes.
In spite of all of it, he actually loves it. He loves the history, the traditions, the committees, the customs, and actually, he was too deferential to the party.
Yes, he was.
He actually should have been more hard-nosed about it.
Yeah.
And actually, because there is true when you're too in love with that, it can actually say, for example, if you're too in love with the Labour Party, it can blind you to the really knotty problems that have to be untangled.
Yes.
And getting your shadow cabinet and your NEC and your MPs all loyal to you, so that you can have your ducks in a row, and so you don't have MPs going off, is a knotty problem.
Yeah, it is.
And it's the best way to solve it is to make life incredibly hard for the people who disagree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have. What he should have done is he should have implemented a 3-line whip on anything, on everything, and then when a rebellious MP voted the opposite way to him, he should have taken him in his office or the whip's office, given them a bollocking, and said, if you don't get into line, I will demand that your personally right to your CLP recommending your deselection as a candidate. And if you're not careful, I will come to your selection meeting and I will personally back your opponent.
Yeah, whomever it may be.
Whoever it may be.
Yeah.
Now fuck off back into the parliament and do as you're fucking told.
Yeah,
that's what he should.
But then you know he could have absolutely gone down the Boris route and just straight up ejected them from the party.
Yeah.
You know, and we discussed this before that we should have absolutely had a purge. And I would have sacked. I'd have sacked Starmer. I'd have sacked Hillary Benn for his stance about Syria.
Yeah.
That was absolutely deplorable. He was and I say, I maintain to this day that Hillary Benn is an absolute disgrace to his father's legacy.
I've actually met him actually.
You poor bastard.
Yeah, he's a amicable bloke in person, but a complete bastard in his politics.
Well, yeah.
And his politics are awful.
Obviously, the apple fell a long way from the tree on that one.
Well, do you know he used to be a really, really left-wing councillor in the 1980s?
So where is that?
I don't know.
Is it the simple case of, as one ages, one moves more progressively right-wing? That old adage.
I don't know about Hillary. It could be just the sense that.
And I tell you the first person who should have been sacked, Tom fucking Watson.
Yeah, that was
absolute fucking lower than a snake's belly. That fucker.
That was a big mistake.
Yeah.
But Jeremy couldn't sack people.
And no, he was too party loyal.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, I agree.
I remember. I have a good friend of mine who's been suspended from the party. For GDPR related things, and I can say this in public because he's insinuated to me I think it's highly likely this individual will resign his own membership. He's still officially a member, but I think he's going
you could say anything you like anyway because you're not a member.
Yeah. But I think he'll probably resign quite soon. But he said to me something very instructive. He said, Alex, what it's going to take, i.e. what it's actually going to take for us to totally reform the Labour Party and make it a truly open, democratic, transparent people's movement again, where we have a whole parliament full of good, decent, loyal, left-wing MPs who are, decent, honourable, do the right thing, in it for a cause, not in it to get rich or because it's a vehicle, not interested in Westminster games. The kind of people you would want to have as Labour MPs. If we're going to get something resembling that party, he said it was very instructive. He said what it will take is a complete outsider. That's the trouble with Jeremy. He was an outsider, but he was an outsider who was in love with the Labour Party, still is in love with it.
Yeah.
His love of the Labour Party is so overwhelming, it blinds him to the actual hard-nosed decisions he has to take to get where he wants to go.
Yeah.
And actually an outsider, a kind of Trump-style outsider, won't have that deference for the party's traditions, its loyalties, its customs.
I would think, realistically, a hard-nosed, hard-arsed, hard-drinking, hard-fighting, hard-farting motherfucker who would just come in and tell you exactly what he thinks of you. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, Fred,
the people, the sort of person who at PMQs would shout across the room, going, "Sit down, you Tory bastard!" Like that.
I can think of
me.
Yes.
For example.
Yeah.
The Labour Party needs me.
Yeah. I can think of there's only a handful of people who I think would fit that description in the Parliamentary Labour Party right now. I can think of a couple.
Skinner.
Yes. Well, he's not in it anymore.
Yeah, well, no, he is in the party. He's just not a member.
Of
the actual PLP. I don't think Laura Pidcock could. Is that sort of hard nosed. She's got the right policies.
Yeah.
But has she got sufficient calluses on the posterior in order to be that sort of table banging, finger pointing kind of person?
I've always thought Laura Pidcock, her time hasn't come yet. She
will.
I think I'd love to see her back there and active in politics, but
well, she is still active. She does her own podcast, in fact.
Does she?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she copied our idea.
Yeah,
she must have done.
Yeah. But she's our generation. She will, in 10 years' time, she will probably be laughing.
More than likely. But I mean, it's interesting that the people who did, did not abstain recently from these votes were the usual suspects. Obviously, Jeremy, Richard Bergen, Ian Lavery, all these people. They are the ones that stick to their principles. McDonnell, they're not going to abandon their principles,
No.
and nor should they.
No.
But unfortunately, there's too many pigs at the trough.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It would be very sad if the Labour Party were to completely die, because even the worst Labour governments have done a lot of good things. I mean, the Wilson government set up the Open University, and even the Blair government had one or two progressive things in its first
4 years, the first term.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
But maybe it's the case.
that you can't really say the Good Friday Agreement because although yes, Blair did oversee the signing of it, the legwork was already done by Major's government.
Yeah, that's major. It's one of Major's underrated achievements. Actually, a lot of the work was undertaken by Major's government. But
yeah, it was.
But the sad thing is, maybe it's the case the Labour Party's just too far gone. It's had too many years of a slow, long, entryist period, of a right-wing entryist period, stretching from about 1994 onwards, and maybe even further back than that. It's just been going on for too long.
I mean,
and it's too deeply ingrained.
Members
into the
and
party.
ex-members, left, right, and centre, are calling for the formation of a new party.
Yeah.
A lot of them want Jeremy to head it up. He won't.
No.
Unfortunately, because I'd join that in an instant.
Yeah.
Well, a friend of mine actually wants to start a party.
Because I think there's definitely.
But that might just be for a piss up.
I think there's definitely room for an anti-EU, left-wing, state interventionist party. Something like the Workers' Party of Britain, only less shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something which wasn't quite as shit as that.
Yeah.
It
would be nice. I just think that the only problem is, regardless of aspirations, we are still a two-party state.
Yeah.
Despite what it says on paper, we are still a two-party state, and we always will be.
Yeah. I mean, the sad thing about elections in this country, there's only about 1 million voters who actually make the difference. Those million voters decide the seats, really.
Yeah.
I mean, which is a shame, because we all know the kind of people they are. They read a minority of people read a minority of newspapers in a minority of constituencies, but they decide the outcome of elections, which decides the outcome of the country for the whole rest of us, and we have to live with it.
And the unfortunate thing with having what is essentially a two-horse race is that when you vote for the third horse, you don't actually achieve anything other than to scupper your normal preferred horse.
Yeah.
That's all you serve to do, and this was greatly exemplified in 2019 when so many pro-Remainers moved over to the Lib Dems.
Yeah,
and Jo Swinson was just a fucking train wreck.
Do you know what?
Absolute train wreck, and she just would not swallow her fucking pride.
I think the Lib Dems, as Yanis Varoufakis said a little while ago, deserve maximum contempt forever.
They do.
Like, they deserve nothing but utter hatred and contempt.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the lack of clear thinking was so incredible during that late Brexit phase.
Yeah.
They had, if they could just swallow their pride and vote for,
and also just accept reality.
Yeah.
All right, I understand why people are still pro-Remain, but they have to accept the fact that it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Just not.
Politics is the art of the possible.
Yeah.
And if they supported Jeremy Corbyn's plan for a Corbyn's customs union or a negotiated Labour deal, they would have got the aspects of the EU they like.
Yeah.
And now it looks like they're going to get none of them.
Yeah. Because of their own pig-headedness.
Yeah.
I know the old. I think he does still broadcast on his own little. He does his own little podcast. Mike Harding. He is a veteran broadcasting, and also absolutely hilarious folk singer, and whatever, an artist. And he was a proper old school Labour socialist back in the sort of in the 70s and 80s when he was doing the circuits. And now, I mean, with the leading up to 2017/2019, he completely did the old switcheroo. And
I remember this.
Yeah, I think I told you. Yeah.
No, I remember this happening at the time. I remember this now.
And I was absolutely incredulous. He switched over to the Lib Dems and gave the usual gammony spiel about Labour no longer represents the working class, despite the fact that every single policy represents and indeed benefits the working class. This is the great quandary: is how do you square that circle? The answer: you fucking can't. That's just mental gymnastics of the highest order. That is like Caitlin O'Harshey's perfect fucking floor routine version of mental gymnastics. She, Mike Harding going over to the Lib Dems just because he's pro-Remain. That was an absolute betrayal of everything that he supposedly stood for so many decades, and it was an absolute farce. And I told him as much on his Faceache page and his Twitter feed. I just you've turned into a scab, mate. You've turned into a scab.
Well, I've got nothing but contempt for the Lib Dems.
No, absolutely.
I'll never. And do you know what the really egregious thing is? Since that election, they're trying to move into Jeremy Corbyn's territory.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's like literally they are such snake oil salesmen. It is unreal.
I think they've been taking lessons from Nigel Farage for how to sell snake oil.
They're actually, I think that in terms of the snake oil, they're worse than Farage, because Farage is an arsehole.
Yeah, but at least he's never held domestic elected office.
This is consistent in his views. He's nothing if not consistent.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
The Lib Dems will just blow with whatever the wind.
Go with whatever the wind blows.
And they rely on you having a 5-minute memory. You're supposed to forget about the time when
the coalition government, 2010 to 2000.
You've just been able to kind of come to some kind of creative compromise with the Labour Party and not get anything you want. But,
that's it. And I've said before, Nick Clegg, he was the golden boy going into that 2010 election. He was the man to watch. He was the kingmaker. And also, the Lib Dems were very much an up and coming and tour de force, really. He absolutely was barnstorming it.
Yeah.
And then he went and bent over the table and took it in the arse. Compromised on every single principle that he supposedly held.
He should have held out for proportional representation.
There was the AV, but that was just a stupid compromise.
I was thinking about this earlier. The problem with that referendum is the offer put forward to the public wasn't big enough to justify a referendum.
No.
I mean, all that kind of time and energy it takes. A referendum is a big event in politics, and the problem is the AV sounded like such a kind of, it was a tiny change in the voting system. Most people thought, well, that's not worth getting out of bed for.
No. If it was
something like Tony Benn's Commonwealth of Britain bill, that would be amazing.
I remember when you told me about that, because I'd never heard of it before, and then I read it, and there was a lot of it that I was like, wow, goddamn. There was a few bits I was like, no. But, I was astounded. I thought, fuck me, this is brilliant. But, poor Tony Benn, rest in peace. One of the greatest prime ministers we never had, just along with Jeremy. But, this is, there's no point crying over spilt milk, even though as disaffected Labour supporters, that's all we do.
But you're going to have to get used to it, because at least for the next 10 years we're going to be in this mess.
Just so that it's basically because at every step of the way, certainly so far, and it looks like for the foreseeable, we can hold our heads high and say, yeah, fucking told you so, didn't I?
Yeah. which is actually the most pleasurable thing.
Absolutely.
At the moment, to say, fucking told you so.
Yeah.
Who said that backing a second referendum policy was going to be a disaster? People like you and me did.
Mm-hmm.
Who said that, Keir Starmer would be a disaster? Who said that the Liberal Democrats are selling you snake oil? We did. And all you had to do is just... The thing is, the key thing, I think, whether you got it, was if you'd had some exposure to areas of politics which were outside of metropolitan areas, London or cities, because we both of us have had employment in what you might call the Red Wall.
Yes.
Or small town Britain.
Yeah.
For you, the east coast of this country. For me,
further north,
County Durham, really, just Darlington area.
Yeah.
We've worked in these areas. I've worked in Darlington. You've worked on the east coast. We worked in the Red Wall. They're our colleagues. We know them.
You didn't work in opticians in Barnard Castle, did you?
No.
Oh, you should have done.
Yeah.
You'd have had a good guess, wouldn't you?
Although actually, that is very close to Leyburn, which is actually very close to where I was born. So there you go. But there's kind of like go to Darlington, go to the East Coast, go to Doncaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfectly fucking obvious why people voted for Brexit.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're fucked off with the shit hand that they keep getting dealt.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are absolutely throwing their shit in the wrong direction. It's not the EU's fault that their lives suck. It's the government's fault their lives suck. You
can blame the EU for some things.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, the buck stops at Westminster.
Yeah, I mean, the government's role is to step in. And when there is massive change to the world, to the economy, the government's role is to step in and ease the transition so there's less pain.
Yeah.
And then, both of the parties have just totally gone for the kind of...
Yeah, and then, they're on about, you get the extreme Brexit zealots that go on about parliamentary sovereignty and this, that and the other. And then when you actually question them on what that actually means, they haven't got a fucking clue. It's just a buzzword. It's a buzzword that they've been fed.
But they know what it is they hate and it's fucking them off. But it's a shorthand. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
The thing is, I think there's what caused Brexit or what could have stopped it is, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, knotty problems. There's been no real attempt in the last 45 years to properly get to grips with Britain's post-war economy.
No.
I mean, for example, Germany is still digging coal.
Of course they are.
To this day.
Well, there's plenty of it in the
road.
road.
They're further ahead in the development of green technologies and green industry. And, if you sound to someone like today, and you go to someone in Britain and you sound like you're from Mars or something when you tell them Germany's digging coal. It's properly digging coal. It's got pits and factories and
Poland still is. In fact, we import in this country now for our remaining coal-fired power stations and domestic and other uses. We import our coal from Poland for the most part, and it's actually shit quality coal. It's really high in sulfur and low in calorific value compared to British coal. And that's not a racism point. That's just a fucking scientific fact. That coal from Europe is shit. Proper. And this is especially prevalent in something I know a little bit about in the heritage steam railway circuit. European coal, you have to burn a hell of a lot more of it to get the same output of power than you do with the old Welsh steam coal. Welsh steam coal is literally the world, the fucking gold standard around the world for, I mean, I know it's a niche market, but at the same time, the heritage steam railway circuit, of which there are many, many different ones around the country, consumes hundreds of thousands of tons of coal a year.
Yeah.
And, and they're having to consume a hell of a lot more of the, tonnage since using this inferior quality coal, and because it's higher in impurities, it's creating more and more pollution, pound for pound. I mean, and it would be too it would be far too expensive to run it through a coking plant, which heats the coal to remove the impurities, and where you get coal gas from back in the good old days. When your lights ran on gas, it was coal gas, and it's a very dirty fuel. Is coal gas? It's disgusting. It's mostly tar and sulfur. But out the other end of that process comes coke, which is just pure carbon, and that's brilliant. That's one of the cleanest burning things you can have. It's fantastic, especially for like domestic homes, for example, because one of the other things, house coal. For I have a stove, a burner in my living room, and house coal is terrible. Terrible fuel. It's so fucking sooty, and all the awful fucking impurities that come out of that. Gone off on a tangent, but at the same time, you obviously, there's ways and means of producing clean or cleaner. Let's not muddy the waters. Cleaner coal, and we have it right under our fucking feet.
Yeah. Well, isn't there hundreds and thousands of years?
Oh yes.
Of diggable coal.
Yes.
Still underground.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's more efficient these days to use open cast mining,
Yeah.
but it's a lot more damaging to the landscape.
Yeah.
This is especially apparent in Canada. They use a lot of open cast mining in Canada, and it just completely alters the topography. Whereas deep shaft mining, apart from the actual pithead gear, you'd hardly know it was there.
But
but it is more dangerous.
Yeah, but I think the German model of how it approaches economics and politics is very instructive, because it's managed to do something really quite impressive. It's managed to have one foot in traditional, energy industries like coal mining. But it's also had to have another foot in the future with the development of green technologies.
Yes.
And things like that. And the admirable thing about it is it manages to have a modern economy which meets its responsibilities to the environment in meeting green targets and so on. But it also, because it retains a lot of its old school industrial economy, it allows the German society to kind of maintain a structure and a cohesiveness, which we don't have in Britain, and it's one of the reasons that you get the kind of rise of the far right up until very recently.
Yeah.
Only in the last couple of years, just weren't there in in German politics. Now they've come back slightly since the refugee crisis 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
And that's driving Alternative for Deutschland up in the polls, and they've now got a couple of seats in the Bundestag.
Eesh.
But we'll see whether they're a long-term phenomenon. But having said that, you consider everything that Britain's gone through and America's gone through and other European countries have gone through, Germany's weathered a lot of storms in the last 30 years reasonably well. And we can't think of that. And anyway, look, basically, all I want to say is this country's fucked. That's all it is, Yeah,
that's the TLDR version
of
what we've just said, isn't it?
British politics is like, I cannot think of another country whose democracy is so phenomenally defective, certainly in the developed world.
Well, it's interesting because I can think of a good example, which brings us on to our next subject, the United States of America. Because they have a system of democracy that is actually not a system of democracy at all.
It's a republic, not a democracy.
Well, it is a republic, but it practices ostensibly the democratic model. However, it is worth noting that of the last 7 US presidents, only one that actually became president actually won the popular vote.
What was that?
George Bush.
Derbia. Alright, okay.
Yeah. He was the only one of the last 7 presidents that's actually, the rest of them were all won, the rest of the popular votes were all won by the Democrats.
Do you know there hasn't been, there's only, I think there's only been one election, I think, in the last 30 or 40 years where there hasn't either been a Nixon or a Bush on the ticket.
Yeah.
So Nixon was a vice presidential candidate in 1960. He was then a presidential candidate in 68, presidential candidate in 76, 72. Bush was he 76 might have been the one where he wasn't. There wasn't either a Nixon or a Bush. 76. 80 Bush was a vice president, of course.
Yeah.
84 vice president, 88 presidential candidate, 92 presidential candidate, 96 is another odd one. Then it's a Clinton.
Yeah.
2000 it's a Bush. 2004 it's a Bush. 2008, 2012, 2012.
Jeb Bush.
So there's only been like 2 or 3 presidential elections where there hasn't either been a Nixon, a
certainly
Bush
in our generation,
or a Clinton,
yes, and beyond,
on the ballots. That's an amazing thought for 50 years.
Yeah.
3 families have had almost
But
all
then
the
again,
elections.
Before that it was the Kennedys, before that it was the Roosevelts.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
There is just like a lot of politics, it is quite incestuous. It's just everywhere you go. It's also worth noting, as we have mentioned before, that in 2016, when you had Trump versus Hillary Clinton, at least 4 or 5 different states had all come out in favour of, this was at the individual Democratic National Conventions, or the state conventions, I should say. All of them declared for Hillary, despite the fact that Bernie absolutely barnstormed the whole lot. In West Virginia, for example, Bernie won all the counties, which I think is about 20 something.
And considering that he represents a New England state,
Vermont, yes,
and
he lost Vermont.
Yeah,
he didn't gain his own state. That's unprecedented.
Yeah.
Surely, it's certainly in living memory. I can't think of a serious presidential candidate that didn't win their own state.
No, I think that has happened.
as a candidate, not in an actual presidential race.
No, I think that has happened in the past.
Well, it certainly goes to show that the system's fucking rigged.
Yeah, I mean,
because if you can win and still not win, how is that representative? How is that democratic?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it just shows you how much democracy's declined in both our countries.
And yet we're so keen to export it to other countries.
The establishment decided 10 years ago it wanted a 3rd term of Obama and preferably David Miliband to be Prime Minister. And, when you think, a Biden presidency is the closest you can get to a 3rd Obama term without being Obama, because Biden will do everything Obama did.
Biden was very popular in the Obama years, wasn't he?
And the polls show that might plausibly happen. And presumably when some backbencher in the Labour Party finally pops his clogs and David Miliband is shoehorned into a safe seat, there's a coup d'etat in the Labour Party and David Miliband is installed in new leader. All the media will come in behind the Labour Party and they could well get a David Miliband prime ministership. So the establishment will basically, that will set the precedent that will set is the establishment will choose its candidates or choose its presidents and prime ministers on behalf of the public. We don't care what the public think. We want a 3rd term of Obama. We're going to make it so that you get one. We want David Miliband to be prime minister, and you'll have it whether you like it or not. Disgusting.
Yet, coming into, it's very soon actually, the 2020 presidential election. If this is the best that we can achieve, for the office of most powerful man in the world, and we have someone who's a compulsive liar, and possibly, definitely a sexual predator, possibly, looking at certain photographs and listening to certain anecdotes even to his own fucking daughter. Have you not seen some of the creepy ass photographs that of Trump and Ivanka? It is so weird.
No.
And yet, of course, they're going after Joe Biden on very similar grounds.
Let me just ask you this question: do you think he'll lose in November, Trump?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't, because everybody, Trump is a kind of person that you cannot write off. Because everyone wrote him off right up until election night
this is funny.
in 2016.
There's a couple of people in America who accurately predicted the outcome of the last presidential election, and they're now saying, well, actually, the polls are being showing consistently large majority in favour of Biden.
Polls were in favour of Hillary.
Well, I know, but I still think Trump's going to win it, and I think that because if you look at the polls for like the individual states, I mean, the two swing states which really matter are
Iowa and Florida. Yeah.
And he's got a slight lead in both of them. I think in Florida, Trump's ahead by 4 points.
Ohio and Florida have got a lot to answer for.
Yeah, 0.
There's blood on their fucking hands.
0.4%, I think he's ahead by, and Ohio is ahead by about 1.2%. So but that's what I look at. But I mean,
I don't really think Biden will be much fucking different.
We'll see. I'll be amazed if Biden wins. There's a lot of people I respect saying he is going to win, merely because the polls are so far ahead. I mean, Hillary Clinton's lead at this point in the campaign 4 years ago was 4% ahead.
It's nothing.
Yeah, but Biden's about 14 points ahead.
That's interesting.
But we'll wait and see. But
I mean, let's hope that so many people are, have finally woken up and smelled the coffee. But it's interesting actually. It used to be a fantastic program that interested me anyway on the Discovery Channel called American Guns, and it was about this fella in Colorado called Rich Wyatt and his family, who's a great family. And they had this gun shop and they did special bespoke work. It was a similar thing to there was another, I can't remember what it was called. It revolved around the company of Red Jacket Firearms, which was based out of Louisiana, but then that got cancelled because the guy got jailed, and then American Guns came to an end after Sandy Hook, and then Rich Wyatt ended up being jailed. And he's out now. He's out of jail now. This was on ATF charges. I'm not sure exactly what the charges were, but it was something to do with unregistered firearms, as far as I'm aware. Clarification needs to be sought. But now that Rich Wyatt is out, he's back and active on Faceache again, and he just has this fucking milk bottle in his pants about Trump. And I've called him out on it a few times, and he's saying, Trump's the greatest president we ever had and all this lot, and it's just like, Lincoln and FDR are laughing at you right now.
No, but I mean, there's things like I would be amazed if Biden won, because most presidents go for 2 terms anyway. It's very unusual these days where a president goes 1 term and is defeated by their opponent halfway through. Halfway through a typical 8 years. But you've got to remember, if Joe Biden wins, it'll be a Pyrrhic victory. I'll have probably 1 night or 1 day of feeling good. And when it actually comes to legislating, it'll be rubbish. Because Joe Biden's like further right wing than the Tory party. If he was active in British politics... It's crazy
how different American conservatism is to British conservatism.
But if he was active in British politics, he would be considered a Tory in his views.
Very much so. Probably, I don't know if he would be in the sort of Johnson cast, because obviously he does actually seem to be slightly sane.
I was trying to think of who the British...
Probably David Cameron, but older, much, much older. He's very... Biden... Especially the way, if you look at him now, he's very remindful of John McCain, even though he's the opposite party.
Well, I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of who the British equivalent of Joe Biden would be, and I think it's probably John Prescott.
Wow, that's an interesting one. See, because well, then again, John Prescott came out with some good stuff. At least he fucking supported Corbyn.
Yeah, he was more.
He got behind the fucking. He got behind the fucking barricade. You know what I mean?
He was more generous than.
It's Alan Johnson, twat.
he's just a bell end.
Absolute, massively major bell end. Yeah. It's just. Yeah.
Can I hate the way he's dragged on TV as some sort of celebrity from the Blaze. Can you name one significant policy achievement of Alan Johnson?
No, not at all.
Neither can I.
No.
Alan Johnson held so many offices of state. Can you name one policy achievement at all?
No.
No.
Exactly.
Neither can I. I can't think of one thing that Alan Johnson.
One of these people that are just so bland that they just coast through their career, accomplishing fuck all and doing even less.
Yeah. Oh, he's a postie. Who gives a fuck, frankly?
If he's a postie, he should have fucking stayed as a postie.
Yeah. Do you know? This will really make you smile. Do you know Alan Johnson has a son who's a music producer?
Okay.
Do you know which band he produced? His son produced.
It better be something bad. Go on.
Have a guess.
No, I can't. No, I really can't.
It was Razorlight.
Razorlight. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yes.
Yeah.
The immortal lines of "When I go out somewhere, then I come home again."
Yeah.
Oh, just pure poetry. Guys, like Shakespeare something.
Yeah. But that is. What a perfect band for Alan Johnson's son to produce. Bland, middle of the road, uninteresting,
cack,
rubbish.
Yeah.
I mean, just
that is fantastic.
Yeah.
You're definitely following in the family footsteps of just complete mediocrity.
Yeah. And he is. He's mediocre. He's got lots of venom for the left of his own party.
Yeah.
Have you heard what he said to Clive Lewis?
Oh, I know who Clive Lewis is, but where does he? I haven't actually. I don't know much about him.
Okay, so Clive
where
Lewis
does he sit?
is the MP for Norwich South.
Yeah. And
he is nominally of the left, but he also threw his lot in with the love socialism, hate Brexit lot. Very pro-European Union.
Okay.
And, So Clive went up to Alan in the House of Commons and said,
"Yes, I think you've told me
Hi,
this.
how you doing?" And Alan just launched into the most vicious, venomous thing: is fuck off and tell your chop fucking mates in Momentum to fuck off as well. They're covering my constituency office with shit. Fuck off. And he tried to tell them. This shows you how mature a personality Alan Johnson is. Clive Lewis tried to calm him down, saying, "No, they're not all trots. They're not like that, really." Alan Johnson just blanked him. I mean, that is the level of maturity Alan Johnson has, and the worst of all.
And also, maybe if you got on fucking Message, you wouldn't have had that treatment.
Yeah. This cunt, Alan Johnson, led the Labour Party's campaign in the European Union referendum.
Yeah, he did a great job, didn't he?
Yeah. Did a fucking great job.
Yeah. Of achieving nothing.
Yeah, like the rest of his career.
Yeah.
No achievements that I can think of. He does nothing apart from hate the left, but that's apparently all you have to do to be.
And yet, someone who comes from Hull.
No, he doesn't actually come from Hull. He's actually a Londoner.
Oh, well, of course he is.
So I don't know how on earth he ended up representing a whole constituency.
Yeah, as Hull's not exactly known for being particularly blue orientated.
Yeah.
There's certain places that you think should always remain red, and Hull is one of them. Well, I should actually clarify, Kingston upon Hull, there is no such place as Hull. It doesn't exist. You don't call Stoke-on-Trent Trent.
Right.
It's Stoke.
Right,
so Hull is actually Kingston.
Right, okay.
That's something that everyone needs to get inside their fucking heads.
Yeah. So, I know, but, he's got real hatred in him.
Yeah.
And also incredible smugness.
Yeah.
And he is such a smug bastard.
Yeah.
And for no fucking
kind of like a bitter
whatsoever.
old man, really.
Oh, he's so bitter.
Yeah.
He's got fucking problems in his head, man.
Yeah.
He's
certainly in the wrong fucking party.
Yeah. I mean,
If you are there to, the ethos of the Labour Party is to represent the working man. The clue's in the fucking name.
I think, do you know what? I think he is treated with more generosity because he's of his background. So do you know the number of people who don't have a university degree in the current House of Commons is about 10%?
Is he one of them?
Yeah. Like Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
So like
you don't need a university degree for anything, in my opinion. I mean, obviously certain specialist jobs, but for something like that, no, you don't need a university degree.
Well, the thing is, he's one of the few people who haven't been to university, and because he had experienced poverty as a young man and as a child, he gets into the House of Commons, and quite frankly, he's treated with more generosity. And but his actual political views are not that dissimilar from Tony Blair or Peter Mandelson or any of these other
Dark Lord himself,
posh wankers in the Labour Party. No, he's an absolute fucking tosser. He is. I'm sorry, but the other aspect I dislike about him is he's got this boomer quality about him.
Totally.
He's basically
Wibble.
He's the politician the boomers have a milk bottle in their underpants for. It drives me fucking insane. It drives me berserk.
Yeah, despite having no redeeming qualities.
No, it's got no redeeming qualities whatsoever.
No.
I think his career is crap. His policy achievements are non-existent. His views are risible. He's got a bad personality. His taste in music sucks.
Well, it's more his son, but
Yeah. Well, he is too, but.
But then again. Again, with right wingers, all that matters is that something makes money.
Yeah.
And just skipping back across the pond again. we really went into the weeds on that one. It's interesting that we're now faced with a situation where not only do we have the classic South Park situation of being faced between the choice of a giant douche and a turd sandwich. But the thing is, both of them are both. Yeah, because Biden is kind of like Keir Starmer in as much as he's just so grey and boring.
Yeah.
He doesn't really say anything.
Can you name a single Biden policy?
No.
No.
But the thing is, that's not what American politics is about. American politics is about smearing your opponent. It's not about what you would do, it's about what they would do.
I can remember more of Bernie Sanders' policies and more of Trump's policies in 2016 than I can of Joe Biden's.
Exactly.
But my fear is, I was thinking about this. A friend of mine said people are moving away from populism. I thought, well,
are they?
Well, we'll see.
I've yet to see it.
Well, we'll see. But there's something. If Biden is elected president and Keir Starmer becomes prime minister, what will that say about the overall good health of democracy? That means people have been beaten down by the establishment for so long. They've had every single democratic aspiration crushed by the establishment because the establishment knew the establishment decided who it wanted to be president and prime minister. Yeah. And they have worked their arses off to beat the public down so much that every democratic aspiration has been crushed to the point where they have to accept the establishment's point of view.
Yeah.
And they just want good anonymous administration and fuck all else. What will that say about the overall good health of democracy? Nothing, really.
And of course, let us not be blinded to the fact that Trump has achieved virtually nothing.
The only thing he's achieved is actually tax cuts for the rich.
Tax cuts for the rich, which is exactly what you would expect.
Yeah.
And, the wall, whilst it is being built, is not really being built in anywhere that matters, is not the impenetrable barrier that he promised. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
It's more like a fence, isn't it?
Yeah, it is more like a fence with a an extra bit on top. And one of the first bits of it was erected. I can't remember exactly where, but obviously on the border. But within 48 hours, 2 people were filmed mantling it with basic climbing equipment. So it's an absolute failure. So that's something that you can write off. He hasn't. And he promised to jail Hillary. He's not done that.
No.
Which of course he wasn't. That was, But at the same time, if you say you're gonna do something, then fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, but then he promised worse than that. He promised
thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs returning.
Yeah, I mean,
factories reopening and rising up from the ground from where they once stood.
Yeah,
coal mines being greatly reactivated, and they're going to produce clean coal, which he clearly didn't know what clean coal meant. I think he just that you went at it with some Ajax and a wire brush.
Yeah, but he's promised those carrier carrier air conditioners. That's what they were called.
Okay.
There's a company called Carrier and they make air conditioners. He promised them he'd retain their old jobs and keep them in the UK rather than moving them to Mexico. Didn't fucking do it.
In the US rather than Mexico.
Yeah. So did I? No. Keep them in the US and not move them to Mexico as the company originally intended to.
And I'm guessing it has.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it has.
Yeah.
Of course it has. Steel mills. There was supposed to be the steel mills coming back in places like Detroit, etc. These things just will not happen. Once an industry is gone, it's fucking gone forever. And this is what we're seeing with Brexit. There are so many salty, so much salty seamen on Facebook, and by that I mean ex-fishermen, because again, it's something I mentioned before. I'm a member of Grimsby Fishing History group on Facebook because it's interesting. It's my hometown. I'm interested in what happens. Some of the old photographs, but it's just been taken over. But there's this one particular fella who just keeps posting shite about Brexit and how we're all going to get our fucking fish back, and all these trawlers are just going to rise from the fucking depths and from the scrapyards and magically reappear again, and the North Wall at Grimsby Dock is once again going to be absolutely rammed 3 or 4 deep with deep sea trawlers. It's just not going to fucking happen.
Well, the thing is,
they're gone and they're not coming back.
It won't happen under the Tories.
It won't happen under anybody. It wouldn't happen under a genie in a magic lamp.
Yeah, but the closest, the best idea anyone's ever come up with was the idea that the Labour Party had at the last 2 elections, which was a Green New Deal, to try and breathe new life into these communities by, properly investing in, the new energy industries.
Yes,
that are going to be needed. That's the best idea anyone's ever had.
And that along with car imports, is the growth industry in Grimsby. Dong Energy have a large facility based at Grimsby, and it's a jumping off point for going out to the wind farms. And that's all right, but we all know that wind power is not the be all and end all. It never will be. We're still not investing in solar, and as far as Europe goes, we have one of the longest surface area of coastline certainly in Europe, one of the longest in the world, apart from like Canada, obviously, but just simply because obviously being an island nation, and yet we're not investing in tidal hydro. Despite the fact that that's a hell of a lot more predictable than fucking wind. It's the one thing that's guaranteed to happen, is the tide will rise and fall. Why are we not harnessing it? No answer. No answer, because no one's fucking talking about it. Because everyone seems to be fucking blind to the possibilities. Yes, it's going to need a big fucking investment, but so did wind. So did all these other things. So did nuclear. They need massive investment.
That policy is the right one because the Tories have nicked it.
Yeah.
Shamelessly.
Yeah.
I watched Boris Johnson's speech where he announced all that investment into wind energy. It was literally, there were bits of it which were word for word plagiarism of a speech Jeremy Corbyn made.
Yeah.
2 years ago. 2 years ago, Jeremy Corbyn called for a green industrial revolution.
Yeah.
Across the north, and make renewables our biggest source of energy since 2030. Have you ever heard that before? And it just goes to show you what a fraud politics as usual is in this country. Because if you were to believe the media, if you were to believe establishment politicians like cunts like Alan Johnson, and you would believe that the left of this country were just a load of anti-Semitic, racist, nasty, bullying, intimidating arseholes. And actually, the best politics is patriotic, centrist, small c conservative, or right-wing administrations like Boris Johnson and Theresa May. But actually, the only policies which actually deal with the problems of this country are the ones that we put forward.
Absolutely.
Which is why the most exciting things that the Tory party does are our policies.
Yes.
It's all of politics is now geared to making sure that the left Labour Party doesn't get to power. It'll happily nick our policies when it has to.
Yeah.
But
for example.
But the double standards, the same policies which are loathed in the Labour Party are welcomed as brilliant strategic genius, strokes of strategic genius from the Tory party when it's done by Boris Johnson. They're the same policy.
Yeah.
But it just shows you, actually, politics isn't about doing what's in the best interest of the
No, it's
country.
about having more faces about clock tower.
Yeah, it's about all of politics is dedicated to keeping the left outside of the government. That's all it is. That's shocking. It's outrageous.
Yeah, and you said about the thing in Germany. What was the party? The sort of
Alternative for Deutschland.
Yeah, that's it. And okay. Obviously, we don't want to see a resurgence of the far right in Germany. Historically, that's a very fucking bad move. And yet, we've allowed the far right in this country to really take root. Yes, they've never held political office, but yet we somehow allowed groups such as the EDL and Britain First, and which I was amazed when I heard all of a sudden all the Labourites started using that phrase, fucking Britain First. I was like, oh, hello.
Literally head in hands awful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the one phrase that you don't want to be associated with. You just have to word it differently. That's all you got to do. Particularly
when you've just been elected leader for the fact that you're defending the European, you are associated with Remain.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
the other party that thankfully has been, I think it's prescribed now, but the British National Party. You remember Nick Griffin? That kind of when the huge outrage when he was given a platform on Question Time, and yet actually that was the perfect opportunity, because it was the perfect time for him to try to state his case on a very public stage and to get absolutely torn to pieces, and that's exactly what happened. But at the same time, people just lose their fucking shit. But the thing is, and this has been proven with cancel culture, if you drive differing opinions underground, then they only serve to make them more extreme. Because now they're in an echo chamber where no one is there to counteract or contradict them.
The internet's been deadly in that. I mean, I've thought maybe the internet should be taken out of the technology category and put into something more like the WMD category. Because
weapons for mass distraction.
The problem with the internet is, it's very interesting. I was listening to one podcast, and there was one bloke saying, in 1995, someone wrote a paper or published an article in a magazine or something, and this is 1995. He predicted what would happen with the development of the internet. he predicted that people would just, as you say, go in these echo chambers. They would kind of create these kind of silos of information where you would only get the information which confirms your worldview.
Yeah.
And people would gradually lose their aptitude as information seekers.
Yeah,
to
speak critically.
To seek other information.
Yeah.
And so this guy who wrote this article, I'd love to actually find this, and maybe I actually will go and find out what this article
If there is, send
was.
me the link, and
I'll include a
put it
link
in
at the bottom of the podcast of this episode. Say the guy wrote this in 1995. He wrote, "Expect a revival of right-wing nationalism. Expect extremist nationalism to come back. Expect anti-Semitism to come back in its most violent and aggressive form.
Yeah, not the made-up form.
Not the made-up form, the properly aggressive, full-on, no-holds-barred anti-Semitism, and expect conspiracy theories to run amok." This was in 1995,
and that's exactly what's happening now. I don't really see the anti-Semitism thing because obviously I have eyes,
I think there's
and a brain. But
I think there's a kind of certainly on the kind of the fascist right.
Oh, absolutely. That definitely.
It
it definitely exists, and you sort of conspiracy theories at the moment. I mean, apparently, fucking Bill Gates is responsible for corona, and that the fucking jab, when it's finished, is gonna contain fucking nanobots that control your mind. Oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
But you ask them to justify this. You ask them to actually evidence it, and where do they get it? Some guy off the internet. Well done.
Yeah.
Well fucking done. Well, that exactly that takes all my empirical fucking knowledge and shoves it up my own hole, doesn't it? Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. And and 5G causes COVID as well. That's the other favourite one. Fuck.
But
what?
I know. But that's the point. People.
No one said anything about this about 4G when that was rolled out.
Yeah.
That's or 3G. Crazy.
It's just carnage.
It's tinfoil hats. Vaccines cause fucking autism, which they absolutely don't.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew Wakefield.
Yeah.
Notice I didn't say Dr. Andrew Wakefield because he's
struck
not.
off now, hasn't he?
Yeah, because
I think his sample size was ludicrously
12.
small. It was 12.
It was 12
people.
people.
Yeah.
And there has been multiple efforts to try and replicate that study, and every single time they draw a blank because it's bollocks. Because Andrew Wakefield at the time was trying to hawk his own version of the MMR.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. But he still goes around, especially in America to this day, spewing his vitriol.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that's a lucrative place to go,
isn't it? Just
and
especially when it comes to conspiracies.
Yeah, because
they lap it up.
He is going to get all those people in America who believe in this shit.
Yeah, he will.
He won't starve. I mean, that's
he absolutely won't, and he should. He should starve.
He
should be shot with shit.
He spread a lot of that. Andrew Wakefield spread a lot of anti-scientific nonsense and a lot of worrying concern around parents unnecessarily.
Absolutely.
And he did a huge. He created an enormous dent in public confidence in the MMR vaccine.
Yes.
And
and others as well.
Start to go up slightly.
Measles, certainly in Minnesota. Minnesota has a large. I can't remember what denomination they were, but a certain community of foreign-born nationals who reside in Minnesota. Andrew Wakefield gave a talk, to which a lot of these ended up, listening to, and measles started to spike. And measles is actually a very deadly disease. It's something that is amazingly deadlier than COVID, which apparently is the most deadly fucking thing ever, even though it isn't. You see the COVID zealots on Facebook. It's almost as if you don't die of COVID, then you will not die at all, ever.
Yeah.
Ever of any cause.
The thing is about measles is we've got a vaccine for it. We
do.
Don't have a vaccine for COVID.
Not yet.
And that's the problem.
Not yet, but they had a similar thing in France where communities, I think they were of African descent, were not getting their children the measles vaccine, and the herd immunity only fell on an average by about 3%, but that was enough to cause a huge spike in measles cases, and also caused some kids to die. But the thing about the good thing about having so many cases of COVID daily at the moment is that because the deaths are not mirroring that rate of cases, it means that a lot of people are getting it and recovering. And that means that ostensibly they are nearly, not 100%, but they are for the most part immune. And that breeds herd immunity. So it's actually, in a way, long term, it's a good thing that cases are rising, because they will get to the point where pretty much everyone has had it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about herd immunity. See, there's an element of logic to herd immunity.
There is.
You know, and
it makes perfect sense.
But the cost to people's lives in the process of getting to herd immunity will be enormous.
Unfortunately, yeah, and it already has. We've seen it. You know, we've seen 40-odd thousand plus deaths. But then again, we can't necessarily trust this fucking number.
Yeah. And then I mean, who's to say? I mean, if the virus has been going around since December, potentially COVID's around a huge number of people.
Yeah.
In the and we could either all have had it, you know.
We could have done. I mean, I would love to know if I've had it. I'd love to have another test, because if I find out that I have had it, then quite frankly, fuck your rules, because I don't care anymore. If I've had it and survived, then I'm not obeying any fucking rules, because at this point I have a very, very low chance of getting reinfected. You know, the actual number of reinfections is in the tens of the millions of cases there've been. So that is statistically negligible. And it means that I won't be, you know, I will have that very, very negligible chance of being reinfected. And if I've already had it and recovered from it, I can no longer pass it on. So therefore, I would be safe for myself and for others. And that is something, I think it's going to be kind of like how in the good old days, if a kid in the neighbourhood got chicken pox, the other parents would bring the kids round and they'd have what was called a pox party.
Yeah, well, that's
so that the kids would get the pox.
That's what
the
herd
chicken pox, not the pox.
The Tory strategy it is to make the entire country into the equivalent of a chicken pox party, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And
I have to say, I don't disagree with that.
Well, look,
I've had it. You know, we've all had enough of this lockdown shite.
Yeah, well, that's the problem is that may be the thing about that strategy is it's a very technocratic strategy.
It is a coming strategy.
It's something that Whitehall suits would appeal to Whitehall suits.
Yeah,
Whitehall suits would love a strategy like that. Civil servants would love it. 10 Downing Street bods would love it. The problem is there's a lot of secondary knock-on effects in that process. Like, for example, you have to lock down at least a bit.
You have to lock down the vulnerable.
Well, because you have to expand capacity in NHS.
Yes.
So that costs money.
Yes.
If you want to do that, you're gonna have to support businesses and people through. And the thing is this, and this is what's creating the tension is science and public health. The public health bodies say, right, worldwide pandemic. The science says we need herd immunity. We've got to create a gigantic nationwide version of a chickenpox party, and the government, in order to get there, must spend money.
Yes.
The state has to intervene radically and spend the money, take the necessary actions in order to get us there with minimum pain. Tory MPs don't want to fucking do that.
No.
I mean, if they could have us all in hospital feeling being incredibly painful conditions with bad virus to save money, to make a mint, they wouldn't do it.
Oh yeah.
And the Tory party doesn't want to fucking lift a fucking finger
No.
to help us. They hate the furlough scheme. They hate the tax rises.
Yeah.
They,
Two things that it's like kryptonite to a Tory. Isn't it?
They are such selfish bastards. They're not willing to lift a fucking finger to help their own people through a worldwide pandemic. They don't want home working because under British property law there is an arrangement for office space where you can affect. I can't remember what the cause. I'm not very good at remembering the names of pieces of legislation, but you can now get what is effectively a mortgage for office space, and it allows you to sell on for an enormous amount of profit. And a lot of Tory MPs have it. A lot of Tory MPs are landlords. They don't want people locked down because they'll lose rent from their tenants. I mean, that's what getting people back in school is about. It's what getting people back in uni was about.
Yeah.
You heard about all these poor university students, right? So
they're being confined to their halls of residence or
and
whatever.
They get online lectures. They might as well do it from fucking home.
Yeah,
frankly.
they might as well stay at home and save nine odd grand.
Yeah, but people have to go to uni because obviously the universities, which are effectively giant hedge funds, want the money, the £10,000 per year. The private companies who own the gigantic halls of residence want the rent. Britain is a feudal society.
Yes.
You look at it and think, this is not a democratic society, this is fucking feudalism.
Yeah.
We have been made
We are the serfs.
We are not supported through a worldwide pandemic because a couple of billionaires and their allies in the Tory party don't want to lose a profit. What fucking evil bastards,
Yeah. I agree. They're truly all
theatres, cinemas, restaurants, bars, anything cultural is just being destroyed because the Tory party doesn't want to lose profit.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, if you were to listen to the rhetoric and actually take, and the proper take home is that, it's okay, all right, you can't go and see your grandma, but you can go out into a pub or whatever, or a restaurant, because everyone knows that COVID cannot get you before 10 p.m. And also, it cannot get you in any building that has a cash register.
But that's a perfect example of how corrupt the Tory party is.
Yeah.
How British parliamentary government is.
Realistically, there would have been no need for a nationwide lockdown. We would have only needed a partial lockdown, in as much as those that are vulnerable. It would have had to have included myself, the elderly, people with pre-existing conditions and all that. All of those people would have had to have isolate kind of indefinitely for the time being until further notice. But the country as a whole would have continued.
Well, this is the thing. There's possibly a slight difference of opinion here because I'm not anti-lockdown. I'm actually probably pro-lockdown I'm pro-lockdown but also pro all the support that comes with it. So I think I'm not anti-lockdown. In fact, I supported the first one. I still think it was the right thing to do. It was also the right thing to put the support in place. And I would not be against the second one if people were properly supported. You may disagree about this, but I think that is my opinion. Is there's a logic behind that, but the Tory party won't do it.
No,
because they don't want to lose profit.
No,
fucking bastards.
Yeah, and then you get COVID on top of that. That sees a resurgence in numbers once the lockdown's lifted, but everyone has still got to adhere to this like rule of 6 and has got to wear a mask and has got to fucking do this, that, and the other. Right? Those that are deliberately disobeying the wearing of mask rules is absolutely not the same number as by which cases have been rising.
Well, you know,
So
it
it's obvious
never
that
ceases to
someone is
amaze
talking
me.
bollocks.
It never ceases to amaze me.
Probably us.
Well, we are. Anyway,
This is what
but-
we do.
Yeah, but the thing, it never ceases to amaze me since the Tory party got jittery about the economy, inverted commas,
Mm.
how utterly confused the priorities are.
Yeah.
Like, because I just touch on this last thing because
Sure.
the double standards that the Tory party have shown between the indoor hospitality sector and the other sectors of the economy is beyond belief.
Mm-hmm.
The Tory party at first did what, well, I personally would regard as the more responsible thing, which it said, oh yes, we're protecting the public health and of course we'll support businesses, we'll furlough them, blah blah blah. But then it insisted that the indoor hospitality sector get open up early before, you know, it was one of the earliest things to open up.
Yes.
And we were actually given a whole month.
Mm-hmm.
We were given half-price meals in restaurants.
Mm.
Why? And even under, in inverted commas, lockdown, the supposed tier 2 and I think certainly tier 2, tier 1 and tier 2.
Is that of the new system or the old
new
Nando's system? I like the
No,
Nando's
of the-
system
of the-
better.
I think the COVID system's based on the Nando's system.
It
but
certainly
anyway.
was. The original graphic, everyone was going, oh my god, it's like being at fucking
Yeah,
Nando's.
yeah, yeah. But
Now,
I think it's definitely in tier 1 and tier 2, but I think it may be in tier 3 actually. They, you know, some bars and restaurants are allowed to be open.
Mm.
Pubs shut, but
Yeah, anyway.
pubs serving food can stay open.
Mm.
Fucking why?
Yeah.
And the reason is simple, is because the indoor hospitality industry is one of the major donors to the Tory party.
Yep.
And they don't want to piss off their donors.
Especially that fucking twat who runs Wetherspoons.
Yes, the feudalism of this country is fucking unreal.
I mean, right now it's been revised into a 3-tier system of medium, high, and very high. Currently, York, where we are, has now been reclassified to high, which is tier 2. And yet, pubs and restaurants are still open. Really, and schools are still open.
Schools are back.
Yes,
Yeah,
schools are still open. Unis are back.
So it's not
Nothing
a fucking
changes.
lockdown. It's not a fucking lockdown. you know.
Fuck all changes, and the only thing that's really any different is that you can't now go round to individuals' houses. You've got to be outside. You've got to meet outside in like the garden or a neutral space.
And
that also goes for people in an quote an established relationship.
And this brings us beautifully back to where we started with Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
And you can see, with all the things we've discussed about the confusion around the new lockdown system, the lack of support in place for people to deal with the current 3-tier lockdown system and the possibility of a new lockdown, the glee with which the Tory party opened up the economy at the earliest possible opportunity, the double standards the Tory party have shown between the indoor hospitality sector and other sectors of the economy. You can see now, when you picture all that together in your mind, you can see what utterly fucking stupid Keir Starmer's strategy is going to be. Because he's come out in favour of a circuit breaker lockdown, while simultaneously ignoring the concerns of the education unions, sacking Rebecca Long-Bailey, not
For no fucking good reason.
yeah, saying no to universal basic income, and
It's a complete betrayal of everything the party had come to represent.
the people who will lose, because I have friends in the private sector, and one of them has been made redundant. The poor buggers in the private sector who have been made redundant across large areas of urban Britain will hate the Labour leader for doing this, because they will see, the Labour leader wants to put me under lockdown. That's gonna put me out of my job. That's gonna put my business out of a job because I won't have any customers. And the people who work in the public sector, the key workers, like you and me, who would be working under a 2-week circuit breaker lockdown.
If there is a 2-week circuit breaker lockdown, I will be playing the card of I don't feel safe and I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna have 2 weeks off. Fuck 'em.
Well, yeah. But fine, but I think the
I missed out. I missed out on the first one. I'm not missing out on a second one. I tell you now.
Public sector workers will also hate you because you're not putting in place the support that will be necessary, and you're supporting the Tory party. You've actually said that publicly. We're supporting the Tory party. So private sector workers will hate you. Public sector workers will hate you. People who voted for the Labour Party last election will hate you, and the red wall voters won't come to you anyway.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely mental, completely back to front strategy.
Yeah.
As a piece of instrumental politics, it's a complete disaster.
I agree. I agree entirely. I think the state the party's got itself into is an absolute fucking joke, and there does need to be an alternative. Unfortunately, the pragmatist in me says that, or knows that, it wouldn't work anyway. A third option, it just wouldn't. We had our opportunity
for the moment.
For the moment, yeah.
For the moment, we're stuck to it.
We are
where we are.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a good slogan for the program. We are where we are.
Yeah, and then in brackets, fucked.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyway, so I think that about rounds out our little tete-a-tete.
Yeah, we've done well tonight, I think.
I think so. Yeah, it was quite good. It's quite enjoyable. But well, it would be nice if at some point we could actually bring you an episode with some good news.
Yeah.
We haven't had an episode with good news since Boris got the fucking virus.
Yeah.
Well,
we could have one on election night in
the US, yes.
the US.
It'll be quite interesting. Live coverage.
Yeah.
It'll be good to do a live episode.
Yeah. We haven't done one, have we?
Not yet. No.
We'll try
a live episode where we're both watching the coverage on, streaming it online and then commenting as we go.
That would be, if Trump.
It would be a very long episode.
If Trump, it would be very long.
That would definitely be sponsored by coffee.
Yeah. If Trump were to lose, it would be incredible. Yeah, but
I can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Singularly Americans are actually all right, but collectively they're a fucking shower.
Well, obviously, I'm not American. I don't live in the United States, so maybe the people I'm listening to would have a better idea than me. But my gut says he's probably going to do it. I mean, Americans have never.
Well, it's just simply because they don't have a better choice. It's the same in this country. If you don't present them with a decent choice, they'll just stay home instead, rather than actually making sure that they register their disgust with the current, with the current administration. They'll just stay home and fucking and watch shit on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean,
and then wonder what the hell happened the next morning.
I don't know, man. I mean, if he were, it would be one of the biggest upsets in politics of my lifetime.
Yeah. We'll see. We will. Okay, well, thank you once again for tuning in, guys, and we'll be with you again as soon as possible.
Yeah.
With some more bollocks.
Yeah, will do. Cheers. Thank you for listening.
Cheerio. Bye bye.